"This is wrong, son. You need to fix this. Mistakes are not acceptable." His father's voice was sharp and cold. It cut through the air, leaving a sting on the young boy's heart. The boy, no older than 7, looked down at his drawing, his small hand still clutching the crayon. The bright colors suddenly seemed dull, the playful lines now crooked and wrong. He had been so proud of his creation, a vibrant depiction of his family. But his father's words, like a hammer blow, shattered his joy. He felt a lump forming in his throat, choking back the tears that welled up in his eyes. His father's disappointment was a heavy weight, pressing down on his small shoulders. His world, once filled with the freedom of imagination and play, suddenly felt small and restrictive. The lines between right and wrong, once blurry and undefined, were now stark and unforgiving. He didn't understand the complexities of his father's expectations, but he understood the message. He wasn't good enough. His best wasn't enough. And this realization settled deep within him, a seed of fear taking root in his young heart. The fear bloomed in the quiet corners of his mind, whispering doubts that he couldn't silence. He was bad, he concluded, corrupted somehow, maybe even defective. The thought sent shivers down his spine. He withdrew into himself, seeking refuge from further criticism. Playtime lost its luster, replaced by an obsessive need for order and control. He meticulously arranged his toys, terrified of his father's disapproval if things were out of place. Evenings were spent hunched over his schoolwork, striving for perfection in every stroke of his pencil. The carefree joy of childhood was replaced by a gnawing anxiety, a constant fear of making a mistake, of being found lacking. He built walls around himself, fortresses of achievement and responsibility. He excelled in school, his grades impeccable, his conduct beyond reproach. He became the model son, the dependable friend, always in control, always striving, never faltering. But beneath the surface of this carefully constructed facade, the fear lingered. He couldn't escape the feeling that he was flawed, broken, and so he pushed himself harder, seeking solace in the illusion of perfection. He sacrificed his childhood on the altar of seeking perfection. He became an adult in a child's body, his days filled with obligations and expectations. He had learned to avoid mistakes, to strive for flawlessness, but in doing so, he had lost something far more precious, the freedom to be himself, to embrace his imperfections, to simply be a child. Years passed, and the boy grew into a man. But the need for control, the relentless pursuit of perfection, these things remained. His inner critic, once a whisper, now roared in his ear, judging his every move, berating him for every perceived flaw. He carried the weight of his father's words, like a stone in his chest, heavy and unyielding. He became rigid and inflexible, his world painted in shades of black and white, right and wrong. He was quick to judge others, holding them to the same impossible standards he set for himself. He couldn't understand their carefree abandon, their willingness to embrace imperfection. He was trapped in a prison of his own making, the bars forged from the fear of not being good enough.